What? Dustin's expression darkened as Hank twisted the truth, and a murderous gaze flickered through his eyes. Hank deserved death for biting them back at this stage. You fucking slanderous dickhead, I'm going to kill you. After a moment of disbelief, Nelson's anger erupted, and he brandished his knife, ready to attack. Ms. Nicholson, save me. Hank panicked and hid behind Dahlia. Hold on. Dahlia took 2 steps forward to stop Nelson. Until everything is clear, you're not going to touch him. Ms. Nicholson, this scumbag is full of lies. I need to teach him a lesson. Nelson's expression was murderous. On their way here, Hank had promised to confess everything and surrender himself. However, in the end, he went back on his word and even bit back at them. It was abominable. Me. You're just trying to silence the witness. Julie suddenly cried out. Are you furious that Hank refused to be your scapegoat and told the truth? Rhys. You're a bastard framing the innocent. You not only killed my son, but you're also deceiving my daughter. You're despicable. Florence criticized Dustin. That's right. You're despicable. Hank hid behind them and cried out. He knew very well that if he confessed to murdering James today, he would be a dead man himself. He'd rather gamble and use Dahlia's sympathy to pressure Dustin into backing off. Nelson, stand down. Dustin gestured backward. Yes, sir. Nelson gritted his teeth and took a few steps backward. However, his murderess never left Hank. Gaze. Hank Hoffman, do you think you'll survive by playing tricks in front of me? Dustin was calm. There you go. Did you hear him, Ms. Nicholson? He's planning to silence the witness. Get someone to apprehend him immediately. Hank screamed in panic. Dahlia was solemn. Dustin, you said Hank was the mastermind. Do you have any evidence? This was a crucial moment. If Dustin didn't have evidence, he wouldn't be able to clear his name. That's right. All you said were just empty words. Why should we trust you? Bring out the evidence if you have it. Julie chimed in. Me. He is the murderer. What evidence would he have? Florence spat out. You want evidence? Fine. Dustin nodded and gave Nelson a look. Nelson caught on immediately and made a phone call. Moments later, the man from earlier who was covered in multiple injuries was brought to the office. This man right here was the man Hank hired. He confessed to everything. Ask him if you don't believe me. Dustin pointed at the man. Did you have something to do with James' death? Dahlia sized him up, her expression heavy. Why yes, but Hank ordered me to do so. He paid me $3 million to kill James with a poisoned needle, the man explained in fear. He'd rather go to jail than be tortured to death. You're spouting nonsense. I don't know you. Hank glared at the man as he bellowed. Rhys, do you think a random actor you hired would be able to trick us? Do you take us as fools? Florence scoffed loudly. Oh, Dustin, you're spending so much effort to frame Mr. Hoffman. Don't you think you're vile for stooping so low? Julie pushed. Ms. Nicholson, the both of them have teamed up to frame me. You can't believe them. Hank started fanning the flames. I have evidence to prove that Hank is the mastermind, the man suddenly claimed. What evidence? Dahlia questioned immediately. I thought ahead when Hank asked me to kill someone and recorded our entire conversation. Here. The man took out his phone as he spoke and played a video for everyone present. In the video, Hank was seen sitting across from the man at a cafe. Their voices could be heard, and they were discussing their plan to kill James and frame Dustin. Hank even paid a deposit on the spot. The entire process was recorded clearly, leaving everyone dumbstruck after watching it. Florence, who was hostile earlier, was in disbelief. The sarcastic Julie was also rendered speechless. They had been so sure that Dustin was the killer, yet he turned out to be innocent. For a moment, they couldn't accept the truth. As for Hank, he stood frozen in his spot, his face drained of color. He thought they would have nothing against him as long as he didn't confess. He didn't expect the cunning guy to secretly record their interaction as a precaution. See that? Nelson was indignant. All of you kept suspecting Sir Rhys and even hurled multiple insults at him. The truth is out now. What else do you have to say? Florence and Julie exchanged glances, looking embarrassed. Hank, you bastard. After regaining her composure, Dahlia turned around and slapped Hank hard on the face. Hank stumbled from the hit, almost falling to the ground, and his face swelled quickly. "I'm going to kill you for taking my son from me." Florence roared and lunged at Hank, kicking and punching him. She poured out all her pent-up anger. How could she hold it in when her son's murderer was right in front of her? Hank was overwhelmed by their attacks and covered his head, begging for mercy. After a while, when the three of them had had enough, Dustin said impassively, "Nelson, take him away. Find a place to bury him." "Yes, sir." Nelson grinned and immediately gave the order to tie Hank up. "No, don't kill me. I'll confess and surrender." Hank panicked and started crying. "You'll confess and surrender now? You should have done that much earlier. Take him away." Nelson didn't bother with his nonsense and forcefully dragged Hank out the door. "Hold it right there." Suddenly, they heard someone yell. A white-haired elderly woman walked in angrily with a group of people. "Madame Alma?" Dahlia was surprised. The white-haired elderly woman was no ordinary person. It was the Nicholson family's matriarch and Regulus Nicholson's first wife, Alma Hoffman. Her standing in the family was second only to Regulus. Her authority was unquestionable, and no one dared defy her commands. "Aunt Alma, save me." Hank was ecstatic at Alma's appearance. He kept calling out to her for help, looking like he had seen his savior. "Madame Alma, why are you here?" After Dahlia returned to her senses, she immediately went up to greet her. However, in the next second, Alma landed a resounding slap across Dahlia's face, stunning everyone into silence.